Thanks for joining the webinar. Appreciate it. People will still be filtering in, but we're going to record this, so we're going to share this. So even if you're here right now and you need to leave, don't worry. We're going to email everybody who signed up to make sure they get a copy of the video. So my name is Dave. I'm the product manager here at HelpSpot. I'm joined on the call my colleague Matt Stenson. He is our DevOps manager. He's also one of our developers. He's on the call as well. And we're here today to talk about HelpSpot AI and what we've been building and hopefully how it's useful to you all. And we'll definitely try to have time for questions. This can be as relatively interactive as possible once we get through it. So yeah, let me share my screen and kind of start rolling here. So, and again, thanks everybody for joining. Really appreciate it. Let me see my screen. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. This is HelpSpot, the HelpSpot that you all know and love. And let's talk about HelpSpot AI. So I guess it was 2 years ago. Roughly almost 2 years ago exactly, we introduced the first iteration of HelpSpot AI, which basically allowed you to use the power of OpenAI to help you write better request updates, to help you write knowledge pages, to give you the ability to translate requests that are coming in. And at the time, we required you to have a separate API key from OpenAI. So you had to go and make an account. That's something that is completely different now. So this past week, we introduced the next generation of HelpSpot AI, which is available in HelpSpot 5, 6, and later. And so what's different about this version? Well, a couple things. First of all, if you've used HelpSpot AI before, like I was just saying, you no longer need a separate API key. You don't have to do anything. This is all just handled by HelpSpot. It's all included for free with your licenses, with your subscription. So you don't have to set up something else. You don't have to pay for anything else. It's just included. And the second major change is that it is much faster than before. I'm just saying there's more that we've introduced, but in terms of what's different from, if you were used to using it, even if you adopted none of these new features, if you just use what you were using before, it is now so much faster. And I'm going to give a quick reintroduction to what we had before we talk about what's new. I'm going to go here to let's go to the AI settings screen that I have in here. So this is reachable by going to admin, and then on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, you'll see HelpSpot AI, and then you'll see AI settings. So when you enable the HelpSpot AI settings, if they're not already enabled, you've got this checkbox. Once you check it off, you've got some options here. What are those options? What do they mean? This HelpSpot AI timeout, you can leave that alone unless we specifically tell you to otherwise. That's really more for edge cases. The first option you see here says translation language. So this is really helpful, and I'm going to show you this in a second. When someone's writing in a language that's not your own, if you want to natively translate, HelpSpot has that ability built in. And then we got some other options down here for AI Triage, which is the new features. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But the second component to the AI settings for what this is what we used to have, is what we still obviously support. I talked before about the ability to transform your replies or to more easily create knowledge book pages. And for that, we had what we called AI prompts. If you've ever seen HelpSpot AI, this is going to look pretty pretty familiar. We haven't changed the way that this looks or works. We've added some new capabilities though. And these prompts are basically, we ship a bunch with HelpSpot that are, out of the box. So you can kind of see how these work, but you can go in and edit these. And what do these do? These transform text. I've got some new ones up here that I want to show you examples of, but you can do things like translate. You can do things like change the tone. And these are all accessible right here from within HelpSpot. So I'm in a demo box here, where I'm both the customer and the person it's assigned to. So it's going to get a little funky there, but you've got this HelpSpot AI option here. If it's enabled on your HelpSpot instance, then when you try to use it, you will actually see options here. If it's not enabled, you'll see a little note saying an admin has not enabled HelpSpot AI yet. So when I come here, what I see I've got folders. If I go back to my prompts, it's these same folders that I've created here. So this is where they show up. And what do these do? Well, they let me transform text, right? So I could write a couple bullet points and then come here and tell it to expand this and do a complete reply. One of my favorite things to do with HelpSpot AI is if I'm making documentation in a knowledge book, I can have just rough bullet points. Maybe it's something that I've copied from an internal discussion. If you use Slack or Teams or some other chat platform and you've kind of gone back and forth with people and you're like, okay, this is what I want. Well, you can take those rough bullet points and then you can use HelpSpot AI to help you translate, or not translate, but to help you turn that into a complete reply. One of the new things that we've added with this new release is the ability to, and I'm just going to show you this right here, is basically, actually, let me go to prompts really quick to kind of show you the prompt that we have set up here and how this works. But when you do the prompt, you're basically saying, what is the role? What's the name? Where do I want it? What is the role? And then what is the action? And we give you placeholders. So a lot of these are are pretty familiar, if you've ever done responses or if you've ever, used placeholders in HelpSpot before. And we added two new ones, initial request and last public update. So what does that mean and what does that let you do? Well, what it lets you do is it lets you use HelpSpot AI to automatically, if you'd like, or I should say automatically, very quickly craft a well-written reply that includes context, and that's the important thing. So in this demo one that I have here, I was just working on this morning because I got really excited about this and what it can do. But I've created a prompt here where I'm telling, here's what I wanted to say. I wanted to write a response back to the customer. I'm going to say hi, and I've got my first placeholder, which is first name. And I just inserted that by inserting customer first name there. And then I wanted to say exactly that. And then I'm telling HelpSpot AI, okay, we want to tell this person we're looking into the issue. We're going to follow up shortly. And then I can reference this initial request. And that means that HelpSpot AI, when you're using it, it can go look at whatever that person wrote in about in the first place. And then I say, okay, conclude with this following line, and it does that. So how does this look in action? So if I come here, I haven't written anything else. When I first wrote in, I said, I've got a question about my medical insurance options. I was doing some testing. This is like a hypothetical HR situation. I've started working. What do we have for medical insurance? So I could come here to HelpSpot AI, and I've got this little AI response folder, and I'm going to choose this option here. And really quickly, it's going to process my request, and then it's going to insert what did I want it to say. So in this case, it's hi, Dave. So it's that first name, right? It's pulling that right from the customer name. This first line and this last line are exactly what I told it to. And then it's sort of writing on its own, but it's using the context that that the person provided, but it's also using the instructions, right? So I want to let you know we're looking into your. So this can be really useful for situations where you've got to send that first reply back. Previously, and HelpSpot obviously still has responses, it's really great for that, right? If it's like a pre-baked thing and you're going to say the same thing every single time. But if what you want to say is, well, I'm going to kind of say the same thing every time, but the context or the phrasing might depend a little bit about what the person wrote in about, well, AI can be a really nice use for that. And so I've been testing this pretty hard, and it works really well, actually. This is something that we've added, can be a really nice way to extend the use of responses and to make them more dynamic. There's all kinds of ways that you could potentially use this. We're actually internally, we're still just kind of getting sort of almost like scratching the surface of the creative ways that we could use this. So this is one of the new things that we've added with HelpSpot AI. And if you've ever used HelpSpot AI before, you probably noticed that was much faster in terms of generating that reply than it used to be. And honestly, that's just much faster than if I wanted to, write a custom reply back to somebody. Obviously, responses are incredibly quick. So this is kind of another way to have those sorts of responses. So that's brand new in the most recent version of HelpSpot AI. The major features that we've created as a part of this new version of HelpSpot AI is what we're calling AI Triage. So let me go back to that settings screen here. Again, this is admin, and then the left-hand side under HelpSpot AI, I can go to AI settings. So we've got a suite of features that we're calling AI Triage. And so what's under AI Triage? That's the ability to generate request summaries, which uses AI to summarize that first, and I'll show you just a second how this works. Basically summarizes that initial request note. So if I come back here, I'm going to go to this request summary column. This might not be in every filter or queue or inbox you have, but it's incredibly common for people in HelpSpot when you're using HelpSpot to have this request summary. And you'll see here, I've got a mix of, this is sort of the dividing line. These bottom three were put in my queue before we turned on the initial request note. And you'll see the normal things where it's sort of the subject line, and then it's kind of including as much, the first bits of that initial subject, the initial body of the email that somebody wrote in on. And then above that, you'll see, well, it's actually summarized it into a really nice a request summary here. So if I actually go into this request, you'll see my initial email to them, which was, I wrote a question. I'm a new employee. I want info about medical benefits. Can you send them to me? Just kind of a normal email. But what showed up here, let me go back to my queue. What showed up here is just that, oh, Dave is requesting medical benefits information. So it can be a really nice way. And again, I'm going to go to AI settings. That's this generate request summaries checkbox here. This is a really nice way to give even more context about what exactly is this person writing in about, especially if you are oftentimes dealing with sort of support situations where you might have really long and complex subject lines, and then you've got who knows in the first part of that request. And so sometimes that request summary doesn't really tell you everything that you wish it did. And so this can be a really nice way to do that. On the flip side, we know that some customers, actually what you really want to see is you do need to see sort of this traditional request summary, and that's totally okay. And that's why you can just turn it off right here. So it's really useful for lots of folks. But again, if it's not useful for you, you can just turn that right off. The next part of AI triage is really simple, which is the ability to detect out of office replies. And again, you can turn it on when you go into HelpSpot AI, but you can turn it on if you'd like. Is using I keep turning it on and off here. That is using HelpSpot AI to do exactly what it says, which is detect when people are writing in with out of office, sort of not writing in, but they are you're getting that out of office bounce back from somebody. Maybe you're sending an email to, or you're updating a request to lots of people, and rather than have those spin off and create separate requests or anything like that, we're just detecting those and silently moving those in the trash, because you don't really need an out of office reply to create a whole separate request, which can be really nice. The final piece of AI triage, which is in some ways maybe the most exciting piece, is the ability to automatically categorize requests. So what does this mean? It means that HelpSpot AI will, when you've first enabled this and then told it which categories you want to enable it on, for those categories, HelpSpot AI is going to train on the closed requests that you have in that category. So what does that mean exactly? If I go to my categories here, I've got a handful of them here. So that, again, this is just a HelpSpot installation that I use for demo purposes. So this is, I've got employee relations, hiring, insurance, et cetera, kind of stereotypical HR types of categories. And if I have been working in HelpSpot and I've got closed requests in the hiring category and closed requests in any of these categories, when I turn this on and when I select which categories I want to auto categorize, HelpSpot AI is going to train itself on a sampling of those closed requests and basically teach it to know, okay, when somebody writes in and it's looking at it when this is enabled, it's looking at that initial note that somebody sets in, right? Whether that's from an email or from a form on the support portal or however it's coming in, but they're looking at that initial note and it's going to say, okay, based off the text in this note, based off the text and what somebody is writing in, historically, this is going to this specific category. So you can turn this on or off depending on, for as many categories as you like. You might have some categories where you actually don't want it to auto categorize because you want to be very specific about what ends up in that category. And I will say in our testing, what we found is you probably want to have, there are limits to, I wouldn't say limits, there are suggested limits maybe for how many categories you might want to turn this on for. Once you get past 50 categories for auto categorization, it might start to slow down a little bit, or maybe you may not even notice if it's slower, but it's just not performing as optimally. We are always continuing to make HelpSpot AI better. So over time, we expect that will improve. But if you have a particularly large number of categories that you're trying to auto categorize, and if you run into any issues, please let us know. But for the vast majority of folks on this call, vast majority of folks who are watching, that's probably not going to be an issue for you all. So once I've selected these issues to auto-categorize, well, what does that mean? Well, if I come in here, so let's just look at something in the inbox here. So this is, I was doing some testing here over the past couple months as we've been developing this. And if I go into this request, so this is something in the inbox. This is something I put in, and you'll see that it gave itself the hiring category because it trained and it knew that I was writing in and I was asking for something because I was, in this case, I was asking about salary and insurance benefits. It's just a part of the types of requests that I would normally put in this category. And it knew that because we said, hey, train on this, and HelpSpot trained on it. So before anybody has ever looked at it, this request already has a category, which that could be really interesting. Maybe that gives you more context, but where that gets particularly powerful is when I combine that with HelpSpot's ability to auto assign based on category. So real quick, if I go into a category, and this is I've got, this is an empty category here. All the normal options you'd expect, name, etc. So this is where the auto categorization options here. You can also turn it on here if you'd like. It'll tell you when you have enough requests that sort of, if you've closed enough requests in that category to give it enough of a sample, it'll tell you the status, more details there. But once this is turned on, and actually you can see here which ones it's turned on for. So I'm going to go into this hiring category. And once it's turned on, what I could do is I could say, oh, I want to auto assign requests here to, maybe it's to whoever the default contact is. Maybe it's a random person who has access to this category. Maybe it's round robin, so it's kind of going around. Maybe it's whoever's got the least on their plate. And when I do this, it means when a request comes in, And when HelpSpot AI looks at it and goes, okay, I know that requests that are, based off the training, I know that requests that come in with, text that sounds like this, it's in the higher end category. Great. And then the auto assign kicks in, and now it's going out of the inbox and being assigned to, in this case, the category staffer with the least requests. So it means when you combine these two together, if it works well for your workflow, you can potentially have a world where you're not having to check the inbox maybe ever, but certainly not nearly as often as you normally would. So if you have a workflow where there's somebody whose job it is to stay in the inbox and kind of stay on top of it, or if you're worried if things tend to sit in the inbox, you got to remind people to go in and take a look and to triage, to kind of assign things to the correct person or whatever the case might be. You could use AI triage plus the auto assign to effectively make that so much easier for you. So we're really excited about that. We've been using that here internally at HelpSpot for a number of months now. We did a beta test with some great customers of ours who used it pretty extensively. And yeah, if it fits your workflow, it's great because now you're not checking the inbox nearly as often. Now you're not waiting for somebody to go in the inbox and actually get it in the hands of the correct person. So again, this can be really, really useful. We're really excited by it. And in order to turn that on, just as a recap again, you go to AI Triage, which is in the AI settings here under admin, and you turn it on. And then you select which categories do I want it to be enabled for. Okay, so that's a brief look at what is new with HelpSpot AI. As a reminder, this is all included for free with your subscription. You don't pay anything. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. Obviously, you can turn it on or off optionally. And yeah, we're really excited to help people use it, to hear how people are using it, and to continue to improve it. So at this point, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to talk through it. If you are thinking about using AI and you want to know how this might work, I'd love to answer your questions. If you have concerns, I'd love to answer those questions. Or if you're curious, please just open the floor for the folks who are here.
Hey, Dave, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So this is is it using OpenAI on the back end?
So we're using a mix of OpenAI and Grok, which is
Okay.
there are two Groks. There's the Twitter Grok, which we are not using, and the other one is Matt, keep me honest, it's GROQ. Is that correct? I'm trying to unmute right now.
Correct.
I think that's yeah, that's correct. We're using a mixture of OpenAI and Grok.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Dave.
Oh, great. Yeah, what do you got?
So one is it possible to see how AI would have categorized existing requests to ensure that it's doing what is expected? So I think I can kind of take a stab at that. That is not currently possible. However, Dave, I think maybe we should cover quick how you can tweak the training. So
sure, that's a great idea. Yeah, I forgot.
That's kind of like a way to get at a similar solution there.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're finding that there are, after you've enabled the training, after you've enabled the AI categorization, that it's just not really kind of getting it right, what you can do is, and Matt, this will work on open requests as well as closed requests, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So let's say I knew that actually this request, like this, maybe I was like, this is actually a great example of what I want to be in this category. And I'm like, great. I want to make sure that this is one of the things I'm training the AI on. You can, inside the request, I can, in the upper right, click on these three dots. And I can click, we've got an option here, which is add to auto categorization training. And great. Okay, so you've got this in the lower right. It says request added to auto categorization training. Then if I come here, so let's go to categories. And let's refresh this page. And yeah, I did some training. Great. Which one was that? It'd be helpful if I remembered. That is insurance. So let me go out to categories and let me go into the insurance category. And you'll see here are the two. Here's actually two in this case where I've specifically said I want these two requests to be on it. So you can have a maximum of 10 that you manually put in there. And then HelpSpot will fill in the rest. If let's say you said, okay, here are 4 I know. HelpSpot will then go, okay, great. I want to grab at least 6 more to randomly sort of sampled across all of your requests in that category to fill in the rest. We want to make sure we have enough to train the model on. So you can manually say, I want for these 3, 4, 10 requests to be included in the model.
All right, and then we have another question. If you rerun the same custom prompt, how different is the second attempt?
Sure, I'll do that right now. I was doing that this morning. So let me go in here. So let's take this one for example. So this is a new employee wants info about medical benefits. Can I send them to you? All right, so we'll do this one here. I'll use this AI response. It's going to process. Give it a second. Okay, great. So it said, thanks so much for writing in. We're looking into the info. We'll be in touch soon if you have any questions. So that's the first one. So in this specific prompt, I told it always use this first line, always use this last line. So it's really just these in between lines. So that's one. Let's run this again. And we'll do this thing again. And it did differently this time, right? So it wrote it, it kept what I told it to keep, because that's sort of how I like to start and end my emails when I'm doing support, but it wrote it slightly differently here in the middle. Still accurate, still appropriate, but it just wrote it slightly differently. And then you've actually got, you can also always just undo an AI action right up here. What's great about this is because this does work pretty quickly, it lets you, if maybe it doesn't get it right the first time, you can just sort of try again if you'd like. So yeah, there you go.
All right, great. And then there's another question. I'll probably handle this one.
Yeah, sure.
Here. How is HelpSpot AI trained, and where is the training data stored? We work in high tech and cannot afford to have content of our conversations be diffused into the open world. Yes. Okay. So the way that HelpSpot AI is trained is it sends that for the categorization specifically, it sends that data out to the LLM provider that we're using. So in that case, I believe it would, well, actually it's going to be like Dave said, a combination of OpenAI and Grok. We choose specific models for specific tasks, and then that category, the model that we build of what a category is about is then stored back in your HelpSpot database. So there's no third-party database of your request data. It is at the point in time when we're either training a category or doing a categorization that we're sending that request data off. And then the results of that is only stored in your HelpSpot database. And we have a page. This is a question from Harold. We have a page out in our docs that goes into more details about what data is sent and that kind of thing that you can review as well. We can get that to you as well. So yeah. And then another question, will the auto categorization override tickets as they come through with a category already selected by the submitter? And I guess I can answer that one too.
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
Yeah. So no, it won't. So if it already has a category, it skips the auto categorization step. So for example, if you have the category drop down on your request portal, it will just use that category if one is selected by the customer entering the request. If it isn't selected, then the auto categorization will kick in.
And Matt, similarly, if somebody has a trigger or a rule set up to auto categorize based off of some combination of factors, AI triage is not going to interfere with that as well.
Right. Yep. It'll override that as well. All right. Another question. Will the AI features be supported with triggers and rules, or is it only going to be a manual process by the user?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say, and Matt, keep me honest here, I would say not right now, the answer is not yet. We are obviously very interested in improving this and making this more useful. So if that's something that you are interested in or anybody is on this call is interested in, we would love to know. Is that fair to say, Matt?
Yep. I would say that's a good way to frame it right now. But yeah. And I'll just note that kind of this new release is definitely it's the first step for us in longer term plans that we have for features like this. Now that we aren't requiring you to enter your own OpenAI key anymore and kind of manage that whole process kind of in a more developer like fashion, it makes us a lot easier for us to roll out new features to y'all. Okay, another question. Any plans to add reporting tags?
I would say that is similar. The answer there is similar to the other one, which is again, if that is something that people want, we would love to know. We want to make sure we are adding in the features that folks want. But yeah, that's definitely something we would be very interested in investigating and maybe adding if there's demand for it. Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions for Matt?
I have a question, Dave.
Yeah, sure.
Is this AI feature automatically deployed if I already have the HelpSpot version that I'm using? According to the email sent out, that it will be automatically deploys and update my current HelpSpot. Right?
Yeah, we are rolling out the the latest version of HelpSpot. We've been rolling it out sort of systematically all week. I don't know exactly where we're at with that. Matt might be able to tell me precisely. But once that's rolled out, then yes, if you are using HelpSpot Cloud, we obviously take care of updates for you, and you will just when you get the latest version, you will have that capability available.
Yep. So if you're on HelpSpot Cloud, you will have these features now. So it's out to everyone on HelpSpot Cloud. If you are self-hosted, like Dave said, yep, you'll need to run an update and then also grab a fresh license file, because the license file has some extra info in it that is needed to authenticate with the AI services.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we can leave it right there. Thank you everybody for attending the webinar today. We will send out a copy of the video, the recording today, to everybody who signed up, as well as a link to some documentation for more information about HelpSpot AI. So information about services, information about how to use some of these features. And if you have questions about anything we've talked about or anything else, please don't ever hesitate to contact our support. We are happy to not just help you when something's not working, but happy to answer questions, happy to help you do something new. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time. And yeah, thank you again.
All right.
Great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Dave.
No problem. Thank you.